Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. It's our webinar. We'll try to break down the topic of fractional hiring in data science. So I'm Vedin. I'm the Chief Business Officer at BroutonLab, data science enthusiast myself. So today we have 4 speakers from BroutonLab and TurtleOS, and our goal is to help startups and companies in the AI universe learn about a new option when it comes to hiring data scientists. So the webinar will be relaxed. In the end, we'll give everyone a chance to pitch in, ask questions in a separate meeting, share their thoughts as well. So I'm going to just go ahead, introduce our company a little bit, and that's it. So BroutonLab is a data science company. We've been active for more than 4 years now. We've been working with clients all over the world to deliver complex solutions, especially in the fields of AI, deep learning, computer vision, natural language processing, and so on. Before we start, like with the presentation and everything, I'll just show you guys a quick video to help you just get to know our team in just over 30 seconds.
It's amazing how AI models can be trained now.
Hello, my name is Michael. I'm the founder of BroutonLab.
I lead a team of data scientists and AI experts specialized in helping startups and research teams run faster. Our fields of expertise are data science, machine learning, and applications in computer vision and natural language processing.
We work with startups on sprints as small as 10 hours a week, and we use the best platforms to make fractional hiring easy. Build your fractional data science team now.
Sorry, we can't hear you, Vedin.
So our first guest today is Vlad, the CEO and co-founder of TurtleOS. It's an online hiring platform that our team uses to facilitate fractional hiring of BroutonLab data scientists. So Vlad is here to tell us about the difference between all these different types of hiring. And as one of the pioneers of the fractional hiring concept, he will help us define it and compare it with some of the more, let's say, traditional approaches. So hello, Vlad, how are you? Thank you so much for being here. Could you introduce yourself a little bit, tell us a bit about the TurtleOS platform?
Thanks so much for having me. My name is Vlad. I am one of the co-founders and the CEO at TurtleOS, and we build software to make online consulting businesses like BroutonLab able to focus on the real work, the data science work, and not the tremendous amount of administrative work that typically goes to running a consulting business, whether it's fractional or not. It's a task management, chat, and billing platform that puts all the admin and back office and payment pieces of online work in one place so that teams like Michael's team can focus on the hard stuff, the data science.
Thanks so much. So the next question, so how would you define fractional hiring in general? So is it something that can be actually defined in a precise manner?
Yeah, I think fractional hiring is imagining what the relationship with a traditional long-term full-time hire is, but creating a fraction of that. So if you typically work with someone for 40 hours a week and you engage with them for ideally years, fractional hiring is the same kind of setup, but doing it at 10 hours a week or 20 hours a week or 25 hours a week, or whatever makes sense for both the hiring company and the person or team on the other side.
Amazing. So how did it come to life? When did it come to life? So how was it? How it started?
I think it's actually been around in a couple of industries for a long time. At least in the US, the way that people hire lawyers and accountants, it's rare, at least while a company is smaller, to hire a full-time accountant or a full-time lawyer. So people will work with a firm and hire a couple hours a project, a couple hours a month, a couple hours a week. But I don't think anybody would call a lawyer part-time or outsourced because the relationship is long-term. The relationship is strategic. You want them to learn about your business. So lawyers and accountants have essentially already done fractional models for a long time. But to make that work, they've had the infrastructure of their firms. Lawyers work in a law firm that does the sales, the branding, the billing, whatever task management and communication systems they use, file management systems, et cetera. Same thing with accountants. So the infrastructure has been there for a long time now to provide fractional hiring in those couple of industries. We're just seeing other industries like what Michael and the BroutonLab team is doing with data science come to life now. Traditionally, it's been more outsourcing and part-time and kind of second-class type of work, like for side projects and low-end projects. Fractional hiring outside of those more traditional industries like accounting and legal is relatively new.
Amazing. So we already know about full-time, we already know about part-time, we know about a little bit about outsourcing. Now we learned something about fractional hiring as well. So what are these core differences between all these different types of hiring?
Yeah. So I'll skip full-time just because I assume everybody knows that's you're in a long-term career, you have your benefits, you're working with somebody for, in most countries, that means 40 hours a week, at least as far as your contract arrangement goes. People work different hours within that, but that's what the paper normally says. Part-time and outsourcing. Part-time has been around for a while, and it's pulling somebody on when you need them. Outsourcing is a version of that has become more popular as the internet came about, and we could hire people in other parts of the world. They're similar in structure, and unfortunately, they're similar in perception in that it's for second-class, low-skill work. People don't really hire part-time or outsourced strategists. They typically think, okay, this is a side project and this is cheap, and let's outsource it. With fractional hiring, my hope is that people open their eyes to hiring somebody for not 40 hours a week. It's an arbitrary requirement that came around a little over 100 years ago when children worked long time in labor factories. And at that time, it made sense to say, hey, instead of working 100 hours or 16-hour days and having kids that are under the age of 10 in labor factories, maybe we should cap it to 40 hours a week. And then it made a lot of sense. But today you can work from anywhere. You can work for multiple companies. And I think those rules are a little more arbitrary than they were 100 years ago.
Definitely, yeah. Everything is changing, especially work. So for the final question, and this is something I'm also curious about. So why Turtle? It was turtle.dev, now it's TurtleOS. So what's so special about turtles?
Yeah, we like the symbolism. I mean, everybody knows the turtle and the hare story. I think a lot of people think we need to go raise a bunch of VC money, we need to go hire a bunch of engineers, and we need to run as fast as possible and work everybody to death. I don't agree with that mindset. I think that the right relationship should be set up for both employers, the people working, the teams working with them, and ideally they're set up for long-term arrangements and long-term healthy arrangements, whether people are working 40 hours a week or 5 hours a week, 20 hours a week, anything in between. So the symbolism of longevity is the main one that we've really taken to heart with Turtle.
Amazing. I have a pop question here. So regarding, so you mentioned that part-time outsourcing usually associated with low quality, usually associated with some other platforms other than TurtleOS, like Upwork, maybe Fiverr or something like that. So what does TurtleOS do that makes sure that you don't become another one of these platforms? So how do you keep the work fractional? How do you keep it high quality?
That's a great question, and I think that's an important challenge for us as we become a bigger and bigger business. Upwork and Fiverr have really focused on the company doing the hiring and providing them an easy and cheap way to hire somebody anywhere. That doesn't really work great for the person on the other side because it becomes a race to the bottom, a search box of who's able to do the work for the lowest price. Everybody has a 5-star review, so you end up picking the lowest price, and it's not really fair for the person doing the work. And the platforms and the way that they're built and the features that they build, in the way that their support teams and handle things, it's very buyer focused. So it becomes an employer-friendly race to the bottom, which to the most talented teams and individuals, I don't think is very appealing. We've taken the approach of building tools for the people and teams who are actually doing the work. So the majority of our software is for Michael and his team. It's his back office software to create workspaces and contracts and billing and task management and chat with his clients. And his clients also get a premier experience of seeing exactly where time and money goes in a transparent way. But the core tools are built for Michael and his team to be able to focus on the real work, not the administrative work, so that they can deliver an A+ service to everyone they're working with. So that shift of focus and it's a different stack of tools. It's not a search box race to the bottom. It's very similar to how Shopify approached e-commerce. If you wanted to sell shirts or socks online, they were the first to really create a full stack solution to be able to do that and focus on your actual creating your goods, not all the stuff necessary to deliver them to customers. We've taken the same approach, but with service.
Amazing analogy here with Shopify. Vlad, thank you so much. It's certainly been a pleasure to hear you talk about these subjects. I can definitely say that no one can convey it better. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for building such a great tool.
And thanks for the BroutonLab team for really running with it. I mean, what they've done with fractional hiring and the clients they've been able to work with and the projects they've made so far are really amazing. So I encourage you to check them out and check their websites and projects out.
Thank you so much. So next on the stage, I'll invite Michael, our Michael, BroutonLab's founder and CEO. And Michael is an experienced computer scientist and a data scientist with a PhD from the Southern Federal University in Russia, here where he also teaches as an assistant professor on the topic of deep learning and its applications in computer vision, natural language processing. So what Michael would tell us is how exactly data science fits Vlad's previous description and definition of fractional hiring. So Michael, I'll let you take the stage now, and yeah.
Thank you, Vedin. So my part is about how data science fits fractional hiring, and I'll cover different types of cooperation with data scientists, and I would like to start from fixed price projects. Actually, fixed price projects are the easiest way for cooperation, and typically fixed price projects are used when the scope of project is easy to understand. It's can be easily estimated. The tasks can be discussed and specified before starting any works, and it's easy to estimate the complexities of work, deadlines. It's easy to understand how much effort is needed to be invested in finishing of such project. And it's important to note that when you work on fixed price model, everything should be specified in the contract before starting actual works. But when we when we solve data science projects, it imposes that it will be required to do research and iterative work. And often, next iterations often depend on the previous ones. And sometimes for data scientists, it's easy to predict an accuracy of resulting model before starting actual works, because data scientists should learn more about the data of the customer, should do certain experiments, and that's why preliminary estimation looks very difficult in the scope of fixed price projects. Often data scientists have to dive into the client's industry as well. They have to understand what hardware will be used for managing of neural networks, for example, what lighting will be used, what environment conditions, and so on. So data scientists should understand the client's industry and the environment better, and everything should be, all the stuff should be discussed before starting actual works when we use fixed price project. Let's consider example of data science project. So I have selected quite famous problem, car model recognition. It's quite popular, and the problem looks quite straightforward. Data scientists should develop a model that takes on the input photo, and the model should return the vehicle's model. The vehicle is presented on the photo. While the definition of this problem looks easy, but several questions should be discussed. For example, what accuracy should be achieved by data scientists? What models, car models should be supported? Should we support just cars from the one country, or should we cover all countries? It's also important to understand how much images does a customer have in the data set, and so on. So many questions we should discuss before starting any works when we work on fixed price model. So looks like we have to use outsourcing. Outsourcing of data science is can be used often, but if you are a startup and you want to move fast, you want to collaborate, you want to work in flexible manner with dedicated people, in this case, outsourcing of data scientists, data science work doesn't look great because of the nature of how outsourcing companies work. First of all, many outsourcing companies put a managers between developers and data scientists, and sometimes it's very difficult to communicate between parties, and that's why collaboration is not flexible. Moreover, project scopes can be difficult to change. So looks like we have to use full-time hiring, and it can resolve all the problems. But when you decide to hire a full-time data scientist, you should answer several questions. For example, do you have much data for full-time data scientists? If you don't have much data, then data scientists will not be able to work efficiently. Sometimes training of neural networks takes a huge amount of time, like weeks or even months. And you should think what will data scientists do during experiments. Will the data scientists be efficient during this time? And the last one, for example, you want to hire data scientists that should cover different skills. For example, you need to train a neural network. You want to deploy this model in production in the cloud, optimize it for mobile devices, or you want to set up a cloud. So in practice, you will have to hire several full-time engineers. So it will be not be budget friendly for you. So Vlad has given great introduction to my mind of fractional hiring. So let's consider how it can be applied in data science. To my mind, fractional hiring works great for innovative AI startups, and that's why. First of all, you don't need to invest huge budgets to work with experts in this field. You can start from small amount of engagements, engagement like 10 hours per week, and scale the workload based on the project scope. And moreover, you'll be able to work directly with data scientists and focus on weekly progress. So there will be no managers. So data scientists will be part of your core team. To my mind, fractional hiring works great for research and not typical projects. And the last one, I think it's very important, and fractional hiring doesn't impose this bureaucracy. As I told, you can start from small and work in flexible manner. And if you like how a hired person works, you can increase amount of collaboration anytime. To summarize, let's discuss when fractional hiring makes sense. To my mind, it makes sense when the project scope is flexible. You need close collaboration with data scientists, and they should be a part of your team. You want flexible budget management, and you need flexible. You need different skills. You need to cover different skills, and it's difficult for you one full-time several full-time employees that cover all the skills, it's easier for you to hire several fractional data scientists. And when the data is difficult to obtain, so when there are not much data, then it's easier to hire fractional data scientists as well. When fractional hiring doesn't make sense. So we have discussed small projects when the projects are strictly defined. There are much data. Everything is open source. You can easily estimate how much time needed to solve the problem. You understand. You have strict deadlines, and you have requirements for developer projects. In this case, you should use fixed price projects, to my mind. But if you want, if you don't need to collaborate with data scientists, and it's okay for you to collaborate with manager, then outsourcing of data scientists makes sense. Looks like it was my last slide. So, Vedin, please.
Michael, thank you so much for the detailed explanation on how to and when to decide on fractional hiring when it comes to data science projects. It was very informative to combine these two worlds. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our next speaker has already been introduced, let's say, so that would be me. As I already said at the beginning, I'm the Chief Business Officer at BroutonLab, someone with a fairly technical background, and I try to incorporate the philosophies and concepts that were introduced by both Vlad and Michael in BroutonLab's active and upcoming projects. So during the next couple of minutes, I'll just briefly introduce BroutonLab and explain just how fractional hiring looks like when you work with our company. So as I mentioned before, BroutonLab is a data science company with more than 4 years of experience in many data-driven fields, especially when it comes to applying deep learning to computer vision, natural language processing, and some other fields like predictive analytics and deriving business insights from all sorts of data. So our clients, they come from all over the world. I would definitely say that around 80% of our clients come from the US, especially tech startups from the US. However, we've had clients from Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, Germany, and so on. So the team is a hybrid team working from our office in Rostov-on-Don, a beautiful city in southern Russia, as well as remotely from both Rostov, Russia, and fractionally from all around the world. So yeah, we are both promoting the concept, and we are also working with fractional data scientists ourselves. So what we generally do, we work with clients, do research, we publish papers in the fields of data science. However, besides that, we're also working on our own custom products, custom solutions, and startups as well. So in many fields like home security, the e-commerce fashion industry, and the no-code AI platform with our products and startups as seen on the screen, like CarWatcher, Sales Vision, and Broughton Blocks. So regarding fractional hiring specifically, so when you approach BroutonLab for the first time ever, we don't require detailed, 30-page project explanations, technical specifications. So even with a rough idea about what you want to do and what you want to achieve, our data scientists can help you formulate it in technical terms, start researching what is available in the open source when it comes to pre-trained models, research papers, and we can together form a plan for future work, even immediately after our first half-hour meeting. So it's all about working closely with our clients, working directly, and allowing for collaboration, teamwork, and making quick decisions to make you to help you move forward as a startup. So as we know, startups they're all about fast-paced environments. They're all about change. They're all about progress, and we believe that. So one of the main reasons, actually, that you might be reluctant to even start working with an external team is that. So you don't know us. You might be concerned that the funds might end up not being used in the best way. So this is actually a big problem when it comes to outsourcing, when it comes to full-time hiring, as a matter of fact. So even when you hire a person full-time, you're still risking that the person just might not be good enough, might leave after a few days. So how we fight it. So we fight it with fractional hiring, and we fight it with small engagements that start at, let's say, 10 hours per week. So, the usual first steps for each project is to research it, evaluate open source solutions, form a plan to move on after these initial steps, plan on how to prepare an MVP or a prototype. And after these initial steps with BroutonLab, it's very, very easy to scale the hours, scale the engagements, especially after this initial buffer period where we've been able to build mutual trust. And after this initial stage, it's very easy with BroutonLab to scale the hours, to work with more people than you started with, and we can help you with all these different skill sets that each data scientist has. So you don't end up having to hire many people, having to outsource just some parts of your project. So it can be better just to work, maybe full time with a data scientist, maybe part time with a let's say MLOps engineer, and like that. So this is actually made possible by working fractionally and by working with a single team that kind of encompasses all these different skills. So even me, when I first got in touch with data science and AI, especially when it comes to actual development and learning, the first thing I learned was that the work is highly iterative, highly experimental. So it's not just like a straight line where you need to complete a certain set of steps and you will achieve the best results. It's rather going just back and forth in each iteration, trying to improve the results. So more about that we'll hear later on from our senior data scientist. But when you work in such an agile manner, so first, it's very difficult to portray it in terms of fixed price projects, as Michael has mentioned. So this iterative agile manner of working, it makes much more sense, especially when you execute it right. So when we work in such a manner, it's very important to communicate regularly with our clients, make sure that our clients are on board with everything that we did during the past week or past 2 weeks, and where we can also intensively discuss, okay, what needs to be done the following week, what are the priorities, how will we use the hours that we have available to make sure the project heads in the best direction that will satisfy our clients' needs and desires for this time period, especially when it comes to the project. So the remote fractional work, it can be difficult to implement it properly if we didn't have the right resources to do it. So TurtleOS, with the help of TurtleOS, we receive help with task management, with project management, with communication, payments. This really makes fractional work so easy to execute, track, integrate into our day-to-day, especially when we don't need to waste time on contracts, on negotiations, on setting up detailed project descriptions. TurtleOS makes it as simple as just opening a link and starting a new project. So everything that we do with our clients is tracked through the actual time spent on each task, with descriptions of the work done for a specific task. But also, it's very easy to track the total time spent during a single week, during a single month, or even a year. So by doing so, by being very transparent, being very straightforward about how we do things, we've been able to combine the perks of in-house hiring, where you hire people, you hire a person, they are dedicated, they are a dedicated team member, you collaborate with them regularly, you have detailed insights in how they do stuff. So we've been able to combine that with the perks of outsourcing your work. Outsourcing also has its benefits. You don't have to hire full-time experts. You have the luxury of relying on another company's infrastructure to execute and manage a project, especially data science projects, which can be very demanding when it comes to certain hardware, certain software, and so on. So this can be plenty of information at once, and maybe some of the things may sound confusing as a matter of fact. So I wanted to go through them through a series of questions that represent actually the most frequently asked questions that I've heard from our clients, from our for people that were just interested in learning more. So these are some of the questions that I generally receive. So the first one is, I want to work with full-time data scientists. So can I do that with BroutonLab? The answer is maybe unexpectedly yes. So the fractional, even though we speak about fractional hiring in terms of working 5, 10, 20, or even 30 hours per week as a fraction of the normal 40-hour engagement, it's entirely possible to work with our data scientists and developers full time. What's the difference? The difference is that you don't have to do it from the start. You can start from 10 hours per week and steadily scale towards 40, or you can take a 40-hour week, so a normal 40-hour week for one developer, and actually split it into 2 parts and be able to work with 2 developers with 20 hours each, especially since they have their own skill set. They can work on different sub-projects between your projects, and it's very easy to build a small data science team with the budget of 1 person or just two people. So as a client, I have a defined budget. I have a strict deadline. Can I still work with BroutonLab since we are working fractionally? So of course, we have actually worked in this manner with many clients. The last example being a project that ended just maybe 2 weeks ago. So with a strict budget and with a strict deadline, it's the scope of the project that actually becomes flexible. So within the constraints, BroutonLab developers keep them in mind during our work, and every decision that we make during the development is impacted by the limitations that were imposed at the beginning. So the end results ends up being something that's the best that can be done with the constraints that were introduced in the beginning. So it's possible to have a strict budget, to have a defined budget, to have a defined deadline, but still work fractionally, still work without fixed priced offers. But the scope of the project becomes flexible, and BroutonLab developers still communicate regularly with the client to make sure that at each separate stage the project is at the best point, and that the future work that will be done in the next week will be within the vision of the company's founder, CEO, or CTO. So the third question is, who handles project management when it comes to fractional hiring, especially when it comes to working with BroutonLab? So with fractional hiring, even this part is a bit flexible. So sometimes our clients want us to handle everything regarding the projects, and we simply have weekly briefings or bi-weekly meetings to discuss the progress that was made so far, what are the next steps. There are other cases as well. So sometimes our developers become a part of the startups team, from the infrastructure, from the workflow, and this is essentially the case with technical startups, since they usually, so the data science project that is actually the core of an AI startup's business is usually tied to so many different processes in the startup as well. And it's very important that our data scientists, our developers are working as closely as possible with the client's team. So it essentially it depends on whether the project itself, the data science project itself, whether it's a model of a certain project that can be developed independently, or whether it's like the core business of a startup. So this usually dictates on who will manage the data science project. And finally, so what about NDAs? What about intellectual property? So we're happy to check. We're happy to sign your contracts. We also have our own template that we can also use. So that's it when it comes to my presentations. I hope I managed to quickly show the essence of what working with BroutonLab looks like. So what I'm going to do next is that we're going to take a look at it from a totally different perspective, from a perspective of a data scientist who will explain to us how to best approach a data science project, how to make it as efficient as possible, and we're going to do it through a short interview. So hello, Anna, how are you doing? Would you mind telling us a bit about yourself?
Hi, Vedin. Thank you for inviting me. Yes, so I'm a chief data scientist at BroutonLab, and I'm working for BroutonLab for more than 3 years now. And also now I'm currently a PhD fellow at Southern Federal University. Like during my time at BroutonLab, I have worked on multiple projects, computer vision, NLP, classical machine learning. And so I hope that this experience will be of help when answering the questions.
Thank you so much for the introduction. So the first technical question, let's say, would be, so how exactly are data science projects different from, let's say, classical software development projects?
Yeah, I see. Yeah, again, I should start with the note that different data science projects, different software development projects, but in general, software development projects are more predictable. And the reasons why data science projects can be less predictable are first of all, it's the data, because data defines the whole way that we progress and how we define our steps in the project, and it's often not clear from the first glance how we should proceed, and the amount of data, the quality of it, some insights that the data can have. So everything influences the whole roadmap, and the second thing is that data science projects are often research oriented, so we don't know exactly how we want to achieve the goal. Sometimes even the goal should be redefined multiple times while during this journey. And so all these things together make prediction make these data science project estimations much more hard, I would say.
Yeah, thanks so much. Those were some great insights. So you mentioned several difficulties when it comes to starting and approaching a data science project. So could you tell us, so what is the best way to start? What is the best way to start and approach a data science project to eliminate these sorts of difficulties?
Yes, so from the years working from different clients, we found out that the best way for us and probably for clients, so to keep everyone satisfied, is to first set up set up some MVP that we build within within 2 weeks, for example, or within some fixed period of time. Within this time, we get acquainted with the data. We understand we understand it. We try multiple approaches. We understand what approaches are definitely not a way to go. We can so we get more understanding of of whether it's possible to achieve or what is wanted to achieve, or if it's not exactly possible, then how we can get closer to it. We can come up with a better plan, with a more structured plan of next steps, and also within this time we can try some existing pre-trained models, for example, some open source solutions that are available in the market, again to get more understanding whether this is what we want to build in future. And after that, if everyone is satisfied with the result, then the best way to approach it is to iteratively improve the model, the product, the piece of software that we are building. At each step, we report, we measure, we validate somehow, and we understand whether we move in the right direction. This iterative approach allows us to do quick corrections of the way we go. And also, as this all is very like research oriented, we can also like abandon maybe some approach that that proved itself not working with this particular data, for example.
Amazing. So we are constantly mentioning data as the main requirement. Obviously, it's in the name. I mean, data science. But why is data so important? So is it maybe this is a tricky one. So is it more important than the choice of the actual model or algorithm?
Yeah, so I would put it like this, that data is the key thing, and having your custom data, most probably labeled one, is very important. So first of all, the first thing that comes to my mind is again to validate, because without validating like even open source models or customly trained models or like anything, we wouldn't know how we perform in the real world, and then we wouldn't know which way we should select to progress, because without measuring we can't improve ourselves. And another thing is that to build so that the model usually performs the best on the data distribution that it was trained on, and that is why having your custom data while training the model is extremely, it makes your model really better. So it can happen that there are some like open source data sets of a similar kind, and it might happen that we can use them, but then there will be still this gap that we wouldn't be able to overcome simply. And this gap wouldn't even exist if we spend some time and maybe money to collect and like label the data. So if there is a choice whether you should spend some time on collecting, gathering, like and processing your data or not, you should always vote for it, because it will definitely improve your project, and there is no such thing as too much data. Data is always not enough. Yes, and so it's like the most precious thing, I think.
Thank you so much. So the final question, it's a bit more general and relaxed after this amazing information about data science projects. So what is the project that you enjoyed working on the most?
Okay, so maybe I'm a lucky person, but I usually enjoy the most the project that I'm working on. And currently, like, I'm working for the US tech agro-tech based startup. And I don't know, there are plenty of tasks of any kind, like computer vision, classical machine learning, and like anything. And that's, I think, what I like the most about data science projects in general, that they are usually very challenging, because even the same task under seemingly the same conditions can result in a really different approach due to some differences in the data, and that what makes this challenging, but at the same time interesting. You should like it's never boring. I would say like this.
Amazing. So you would say the last point that you made. So you mentioned like that there can be two projects with maybe identical goals, identical inputs, identical maybe outputs in terms of data science models, but with a different data set, it can completely change the path that you take to achieve the solution. Is that correct?
Yes, definitely. So the data defines everything, and like the amount of data, its quality, maybe the distribution of classes if we're talking about classification, there are many things that can influence the road path. And yes, we like the art of the data science is to choose the right way to go given the data that is available.
Amazing. Anna, thank you so much. It was a pleasure to hear about all of this from a perspective of a senior data scientist. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you as well. So that's it regarding the presentation. We hope it was valuable. We hope that it managed to convey the most important information about fractional hiring in data science. So if you are watching our automated webinar, you in the chat you will have the link to join. After the webinar, you'll have the chance to speak with me, to speak about everything that we discussed, to ask questions. And yeah, especially we'd love to hear some feedback, hear your opinions as well. And in the name of BroutonLab, TurtleOS, and all of our presenters today, I'd like to thank everyone for participating. Remain open for any form of communications, emails. You can see them on screen, as a matter of fact, or basically any social network where you can find us. We'd be happy to have a chat, have a video call, speak with you. We love everything about data science, both from research, business, perspective, anything. It's been a pleasure having you today. We hope to connect again in the near future. Have a great rest of the week, and good luck with everything. Thank you so much.